Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, welcome back. This is not an emergency episode, but it is a timely episode because you and I are among the first people to see Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever.
That's right. Wakanda Forever. This is a classic Films and Stuff review.
Yes, cinematic review.
Of the MCU's latest cinematic effort.
Not only the latest, it is the 30th episode within the MCU, and I understand it is considered to be the end of Phase 4.
I think the next movie is Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah. Which looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's Quantumania, so I imagine that is an excellent starting point for where that phase is going to end with its Avengers movies.
All right. Every time you and I see a big cinematic release at the beginning of its release date, we first go through what is the atmosphere and the capacity of our cinemas. So why don't you tell me about, this came out for me, Dubai time, Wednesday, very late night. And I saw it about 24 hours later, Thursday night. When did you see it?
I saw it on Friday morning, I think, or Friday morning.
Okay. And what was the cinema like? Full, not full?
Surprisingly busy, considering the time of day.
I had the same thing on a Thursday. It was maybe not 100% full, but it was very, very close to 100% full. So that was good on a Thursday. I imagine Friday weekend, it's going to be completely sold out.
Just to give you an update, Thursday night box office, $58.8 million worldwide.
Whoa, that's huge.
$28.8 million in the U.S. alone, and then another $30 million global.
It's going to have a huge opening weekend then, I think, huh?
So projections were between $170 and $200 million.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if it's going to break $200 million because that is, even for a superhero movie, that is a really high bar to break. Yeah. But if there is one movie in the last couple of Marvel movies that could do it, this is the only one.
Yeah. What did you think of it? Just generally, before we go into characters, before we go into plot and stuff, what did you think of it overall? When you walked out, you were like, hey, that was blank.
So the way I had structured my thoughts was what I liked about the movie, what I didn't like about the movie, and then my final, basically, thoughts. So I think ultimately, good or bad, it is not going to be easy to judge this film. This one in particular, because there's a lot of noise surrounding it. And when I say noise, I don't mean like good or bad. Again, just noise in the sense that think of in the recent years, think of Don't Worry Darling, or imagine if you would, Johnny Depp's latest movie or next movie. There's going to be a lot of noise that surrounds the movie that has nothing to do with the movie and everything to do with the personal lives of the stars of that movie. And I think this is the same thing that's going to happen. So people are going to not just end up judging the film for the film, but also for the personal circumstances. So you're going to have nostalgia for Chadwick Boseman. There's going to be a small portion of people who are super annoyed at Letitia Wright because, and forget about what happens in the movie and what about her character, but because, there was rumored that she was staunchly anti-vax and that because of her, the production of this movie was held back so often. You're also going to have the fact that whether you like it or not, and I think this is a good thing, by the way, is that this movie and this franchise in general has a very strong positive role model in the superhero space, which is rare for Black and Latino people. Rarely do you see a Black superhero. Rarely do you see a Latin superhero. Or maybe not even in superhero, but like in pop culture movies, even like in Star Wars. I think Diego Luna was one of the first major Latin actors in the Star Wars universe. it's no longer a men versus women debate. Movies like Wonder Woman, you had Captain Marvel, which showed that women are equally as good, or if not better, than their male counterparts. So this has now kind of become a little bit more succinct and maybe a little bit more nuanced in that regard. So the reason I'm saying that all of this is because I think that no matter what you and I think about this movie, there's going to be a lot of emotional circumstances for other people and for people in general that'll affect whether they see this movie as good or bad. I, for example, don't think that this was a bad movie, but I certainly don't think it was a great movie. And for me, I mean, spoiler alert, this is a solid wait for streaming. What about you?
The first Black Panther was iconic, primarily for T'Challa, right? As you mentioned, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. If he would have come back to reprise this role, I think it would have been massive, massive. The fact that we knew that he had passed away, I think, diminished the enthusiasm we had for the story for a few reasons. One, everything in MCU was kind of wrapped up, at least on Earth in a very clear way. And without the Black Panther in the Black Panther movie, that's kind of that's the main character, right? I mean, the main character is gone. So I think those two things probably held back my enthusiasm a little bit. I have to say, the movie was 2 hours, 40 minutes, which you and I commented on, which I think is a super long movie. But unlike a lot of other movies, I did not feel that it dragged. I didn't feel that there was any superfluous scenes that I would have cut that didn't add anything. I didn't feel bored. I was really, really happy with the pace of this movie. And I have to say, bravo to Ryan Coogler. The plot, which again, I did not read about in advance, but just having known how Black Panther, the original, ended, I didn't see that there was really a natural sequel to be made. He made a very, very good, interesting, unique sequel. I thought it was a very, very good movie. But I agree with you, and I think we've got pretty high standards. It's not iconic. And I think it's not iconic because there's a lot of different things within this movie. There's kind of grieving for Chadwick, right? And we're not really sure how to deal with his death in life or in the movie. It stays definitely within Earth. There's not any involvement of, the rest of the MCU or, any Avengers or anyone else, which is also a little bit rare, unlike, Strange or Spider-Man or something else, that does a lot of tie-ins. And I have to say, I'm not really convinced that we have a new main character for the Black Panther, and that's a little bit difficult. I mean, Shuri, right, who's an amazing actress, right? And we loved her in the original Black Panther. She's great, even in this movie. But I'm not sure that even when she was cast, it was cast with an eye on, hey, you're going to be the Black Panther in the sequel. That's just kind of the way that things went, and they went with it, and she did a great job.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but she's kind of the backup quarterback, right? And the starter went down, and she's now thrust into that starting position. She did a very, very good job, but it's not the name or the screen presence, I think, that could really carry that franchise long term. I'm not enthused about it, and I wasn't enthused about the people that were kind of put around her to try to pick up that slack. So I thought it was a very, very good movie in terms of getting through 2 hours and 40 minutes. If someone said, hey, do you want to see it again? I would probably say no. And when it comes out for video, I'm not going to watch it again. But if someone turns it on, I would not leave the room. But I agree with you. I think it's definitely a wait for it to come out type of film.
I was going to start with the good first, but I think we should start with the maybe not so good first, only because there's a couple of points you've raised that I'm not necessarily aligned with you on.
Let's hear it.
So let's talk about some of the maybe not great things. Just visually, as a general, I thought there were a lot of scenes that were just a little too dark. I get that a lot of the film is underwater. Some of the scenes are shot at night, but it was a little too dark visually for me to make out any nuance. And that could have been a my theater thing. Maybe they just don't have great projectors. I don't know. In terms of timing, I agree with you. The film doesn't feel like it's 2 hours, 40 minutes. It's nice that way, but what I do think is that the film is a little long. Those aren't mutually exclusive. So the film is a little long, but the thing that caused me issues was that it felt like there was bloat in the film, and it felt like the bloat in the film were things that they were kind of doing to set up future MCU programs. So I'll give you an example. Riri Williams is introduced to us as this young 19-year-old genius intellect at MIT. She's discovered, or she's invented a machine that can detect vibranium, and that's kind of the instigating point of this film. We see her not just introduced, but we see her come and play a relatively important part. She builds her own Iron Man suit, and she becomes she basically builds the prototype for what will eventually become her new outfit. In the comics, she's known as Ironheart. She is Tony Stark's protege. And she becomes the next Iron Man character, and she calls herself Ironheart. That's fine, but I don't think we needed to see her in the film. I think that if we had her name dropped as the inventor of the machine, and maybe name dropped as someone who's working with like the Stark Foundation on the next gen of Stark tech, I think that would have been more than enough, only because if you look at her scenes alone, they're not that strong. She's supposed to be this genius level intellect, and we talked about this yesterday. Yet at the same time, she's also like this doe-eyed, in awe of everyone character like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And for me, those two personalities do not mesh.
I totally agree with you. I really agree with you. I'm really... One way or another, I could have been okay with it, but even in the same scene, they took her from her dorm room in MIT, and then, I don't know Boston very well, maybe you do, but then suddenly, like within the same scene, she had kind of like this workshop in kind of like this
warehouse,
weird warehouse, like. It doesn't make sense to me. Either she should have like a lab, or she should work at Stark Industries, or she's everything on campus and her room could be set up like that. Or she should just be not a student. She could be a dropout and she could be working out of a warehouse. Yeah. It can't be both though. I thought that was weird. And then I just didn't really like the chase scene after that. But I agree. That was a theme with Riri throughout that really bothered me, which is, a character cannot play both sides. And I'll say the same thing with Julia Louis-Dreyfus when we get there. You cannot be, I'm this child genius prodigy. Oh, by the way, everything is surprising to me. I don't know how to handle myself, but somehow I can now fight. You know, when a few minutes ago I was throwing what did she throw at the guys? She threw like a space heater and a speaker, right? And then later she's like in her Ironheart suit and she's fighting with everybody like it's no big deal. Like, no, you don't have a background in fighting, right? You're the scientist. You should be in the lab. You should be supporting Shuri, right? That's kind of
something like that. It just seemed a little odd to me. And I think that these are things that we could have explored in her TV series, which she has. They've got an Ironheart series in development. We didn't need to see her on screen for this. I get that you want to introduce the character because that's, where the MCU is now. But I feel like they got so bogged down with introducing her that she became a non-factor. And it was kind of like she wasn't really super effective in the battle scene. She wasn't doing anything we haven't seen before. She did everything that Iron Man otherwise would have done. And if you've already closed the chapter on Iron Man, which you very successfully did, by the way, in a very clean break, this isn't the appropriate place to automatically introduce another Iron Man. You've got the TV series, build up to it, fine. And the same, by the way, goes for Martin Freeman's character in Everett Ross, or whatever his name is. He seemed kind of like not necessary, like he didn't need to be there. If you cut out every scene that he was in the movie, I think you could have been absolutely fine. So between the two of those guys, for example, I think you could have easily done 15 minutes, 20 minutes less in this movie, and you would have gotten a more tight film. And I'm not saying that they were negatives to the movie. I just say that they don't add anything to the movie except runtime. And if you're adding runtime for no real value, that diminishes the movie overall.
I agree. I didn't like his character. And if we're going to go there, I didn't like Julia Louis-Dreyfus either for two reasons.
Let's do it.
First of all,
what was the reason?
On Seinfeld, I loved her. She
Sure.
was the perfect character. And I say that because I'm coming from a place that I really want to like this character. But I found two things. One, is she supposed to be like a hard-ass, always serious woman? Or is she supposed to be kind of this flaky, female version of a playful, like Tony Stark, right? And every scene I found she was a little bit different. Is she serious or not serious? Is she wisecracking or is she a hard ass? It was...
She's supposed to be serious, but that wisecracking element of hers is a facade to let everyone's guard down. So that's what it's supposed to be.
I don't know. I really didn't like... And this is not the first film that she's appeared in MCU, right? We saw her in...
No, we saw her in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We saw her at the end of Black Widow.
And I just want her to choose something, but I have to say also, if there's such a thing as toxic masculinity, which there is, there should also be something which is toxic femininity, which means you don't have to overact and be this, I'm impervious to everything and I'm such a hard ass and I don't take anything from anybody and I'm barking orders and, I want to like her, but I feel like that character is just not doing anything,
At the moment, I didn't like the fact that she played, I don't want to say an integral role, but like I liked her more as a cameo kind of role like she had in the other films and in the other shows, only because they're getting their own movie as well. So her character is basically supposed to be Amanda Waller from the Suicide Squad for the Marvel Universe. So she's got this she organizes this collection of misfit villains / heroes / anti-heroes that work for her. They're basically the ambiguously good of the good version of the Avengers.
Yeah, I could deal with her. I think she's so good wisecracking. I don't buy her as Amanda Waller. And I don't like Amanda Waller's character at all. I love the actress.
At all.
I don't like that character at all. It's toxic. It just is not good for anyone. So I was really disappointed with Julia Louis-Dreyfus in there. I like the kind of purple streak in her hair. But again, what does that signify? She's playful and
I think that's just her character from the comics.
She's either playful and wisecracking, right? She's Tony Stark, right? Always got a smart ass comeback, or you're Amanda Waller and everything's by the book, right? You cannot be both. And you just said the same thing for Riri. So those are two characters I wasn't really stricken by. What else did you have on your negative list?
I am not a fan right now of showing these anti-heroes on screen as almost exclusively bad or unlikable guys. So, the problem I had with Black Adam was Black Adam is an anti-hero in the comics. You've got him played by a very charismatic,
the most
almost
lovable guy
for being a good guy with the smile that could literally light up a city. And he plays such an unlikable a-hole that no matter how the movie ends, you cannot see him as being a good guy or even an anti-hero. And they kind of do the same thing with Namor. Namor was never a good guy. In fact, in all of comics, I would go so far as to say Namor was the first anti-hero ever produced. Before Wolverine, before Black Adam, all of them, he was one of the first, and he's also one of the founding members of the Illuminati in the MCU. I'm not sure why you have an anti-hero play the villain, because how do you then move on in future movies or even in this universe and keep him as someone who's supposed to be a good guy? Even by the end of this movie, where he's kind of playing Shuri and Black Panther and Wakanda rather, he comes off as a not great guy.
Yeah.
And the cognitive dissonance, as someone who's read the comics, it doesn't hit for me. It just does not hit for me that he's supposed to be a good guy in future movies or even as an anti-hero in future movies. It just doesn't come off. I really thought that what was going to happen in the third act was that while there was a little bit of conflict between Wakanda and Talokan, the US was going to take advantage of that and try to strike both places at the same time. Wakanda was going to have to defend Namor City, and Namor was going to have to defend Wakanda, and then finally they end up, having a begrudging respect for each other. We are the best above water, you are the best below water, let us be allies.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been a stronger third act than what we got, which was just a good guy versus a semi-good guy, which leads on to my next point, which is that final third act battle. Man, I don't know about you, but it just seemed boring and
on the ship.
On the ship, especially. Like I thought the
first of all,
one-on-one was
is
far
Wakanda,
better and
is
far
Wakanda
more
a
impactful.
landlocked country?
I mean, they imply that it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're going. I know.
I mean,
where you're going with this, right?
every scene that we've seen, we haven't really seen that it's been like a beachside city, right?
By the ocean.
It's always been landlocked. There's mountains. There are some rivers, right? But it's never really been an ocean city. And now they've got like this huge, massive armada, like Navy type ship. I thought that was just strange.
Yeah. So I don't know. I found that like if you're comparing Black Panther 1 to Black Panther 2, and there are a lot of parallels between both movies, I felt that the ending battle between Black Panther 1 was, in Black Panther 1 compared to Black Panther 2 was far more impactful, far more emotional, and far more, significant than it was in this. And in this case, I would have said, listen, if you didn't have that Ironheart thing to deal with, if you got rid of all of that and just focused on Shuri versus Namor, I think that would have been way more powerful because that was the battle that was interesting to me. Not what was going on in the ship. What was going on in the ship was really blah. And it was really boring for me. I didn't find anything great about that. We didn't see any amazing action sequences. We didn't see anything crazy happen on there. Nothing.
I agree. I mean, I think what I was kind of expecting this to be was I understood that, Namor was trying to protect his underwater colony and he did not want vibranium to be shared with anyone else, right? So he's saying, hey, let's work together and we'll keep everything secret. And I kind of thought that he was going to, because Shuri was very young, he was going to kind of like assume a more public role as kind of like the ambassador of vibranium and try to, kind of dictate what the global terms would be. And then, Shuri was going to kind of like find her voice and stick up for Wakanda and say, look, we're fine. Thank you. We'll do things our way and you do things your way. But the conflict I thought was very manufactured. Like, they tried to show his backstory a little bit, right? Where his country was colonized and there was all this like bad stuff happen. But I don't know. It didn't really feel real to me. Like it didn't really explain why he wanted to like kill all the surface people. I understood he wanted to keep things secret, but that was all I understood.
Such a great point you've raised, because that was exactly my point. Was for someone who's been colonized, all of a sudden he wanted to become a colonizer. And I just thought that was so weird, because Wakanda said, hey, we don't want to be colonized by anyone, so we're just going to go on the defense. And his response was, we don't want to be colonized anymore, so we're going to go on offense and colonize everyone. I just thought that...
Yeah, because he said either you're going to be my ally or you're going to be my enemy, and I'll take you down first. It's like, that escalated quickly. And
I was just... And for me, I just thought that they had... both those cultures had so much in common that they are natural allies. They've both experienced colonization. They've both experienced racism. They've both experienced some form of oppression in the past. They both now are super technologically advanced, and they both are now basically number one and number two, if not number one and number one, in the global superpower race for people who are as smart as they portray themselves to be. I thought that this was a step backwards for them to now start fighting with each other versus building an alliance together.
Yeah. What is the situation with vibranium? I don't understand. I understand that historically vibranium was only in Wakanda. Were they selling it to any other countries?
They were not.
The Claw was selling it at some point, right?
His backstory in the comics was that he had learned of Wakanda. Yeah. He got in there and he was able to steal vibranium out.
So he did smuggle some out.
And that's what Ultron bought from him.
Because I understand the only vibranium is Captain America's shield. Winter Soldier's arm. Ultron, and Circus had like his weapon, right? He had like some type of blaster. So I didn't really understand, like at the beginning when they had like this ridiculous like Swiss-based UN meeting, right? When they said like, you know, you've got to share vibranium, it can be used for all these other things. I didn't really understand why this was an issue. I'm also not clear how Wakanda got so rich if they're not selling any vibranium.
That's a great question. I don't know what they're doing for their wealth, but let's just assume they have it. The U.S. wanted it because they've glossed over it, but the point was that vibranium could be used for weapons of mass destruction, and they just want to be more...
But then this isn't a UN thing, then this is a U.S. thing, right?
Well, no, it becomes a UN thing because at the very end of the last movie, Chadwick Boseman goes on to the UN stage to say that Wakanda is now going to be a global superpower, and we're going to help people around the world.
And they're saying now they didn't fulfill that commitment.
Because fulfilling that commitment isn't just about giving money. It's also about sharing technology. It's also about sharing resources.
Okay, I understand the Wakanda vibranium. I'm not sure then I understand. I mean, I think it's cool that we got introduced to Talokan, right? I think that's cool. It makes sense. Yes, there's another comet and it crashed into the ocean. And yes, my two problems are that city... I mean, it's basically like Atlantis, right? It's now kind of like Aquaman.
Well, yeah, it actually is Atlantis, but they didn't want to use it because Aquaman beat them to
But it wasn't really, but that can't be like an amazing technological city, again, just because it can be a very beautiful place, but it shouldn't really be like a technology place because they're not building buildings underwater, right?
So we didn't see it this is the thing that also didn't bother me, but a little annoyed me was when we open in on Wakanda for the very first time in Black Panther 1, we are blown away by the technology. And like these high-rise skyscrapers, everything looked amazing. Here, even though they are vibranium backed and they have technology, we don't really see any high-tech anything. We still see what looks like old ancient mining.
I mean, I'm kind of okay with that. I would have preferred that, again, it's not a equivalent of a underwater Wakanda, because obviously underwater you don't have the same building materials. Everything's going to be different, right? I would have preferred that it would have been this beautiful Little Mermaid, Avatar type, city underwater that no one ever discovered and is just more beautiful in a natural way. And they have vibranium, but again, I know I'm making this more complicated than I need to, but like, what are they doing with vibranium? They're underwater. They're not really manufacturing it. They're just making it into jewels and weapons.
And they built that machine that created the sun under the water.
But at one point, also, they said, like, I can't remember what that lady's name is who is responsible to find Shuri. She's like, oh, I'm getting like her bracelet is 150 meters underwater. 150 meters is nothing. It should have been like 3 kilometers underwater. You know, it should have been.
Yeah. I found that a little odd.
Like, that's scuba dive territory, you know, like. So I thought it should have been something like way, not like off the coast of whatever country he was originally in. It should have been like really in the middle of, you know, the Atlantic Ocean, you know, where the Meg is and all these other, you know, like historical creatures. I thought that would have been a little bit more realistic, and they just want to stay to themselves. They don't want anyone to come find them. I understand they want to destroy the machines and anyone that's, you know, trying to impose on their beautiful ecological culture. But I don't see, I'm with you, I don't see the natural conflict that they had with Wakanda.
So those were my biggest gripes with the movie. Anything else or that you had?
No, I guess those are the major things that I had. I thought that, you know, I like Shuri a lot as a character. I'm not sure I'm really feeling her as the lead. I loved Angela Bassett as the queen. Sad to see her go, but the timing was probably right. Namor, I agree, like everything underwater is always going to be complicated in terms of lighting and style and stuff. Overall,
let's go into the good, because you're transitioning naturally into that anyway. So I am with you. I thought Angela Bassett was awesome. I thought so. I really liked her. Assertive, powerful. She looked gorgeous. She looked elegant. Loved
and she was smart. She had everything she said was really relevant to that movie. You know, no wasted words. Yeah. She didn't have any just jibber jabber. You know, everything she made was absolutely the right way to say it.
I liked that the film really gave a lot of respect to Chadwick Boseman and his legacy. Not just as, you know, Chadwick Boseman, but also as the character. Like, they gave a lot of gravitas. I thought it was really done well. I thought this was a really nice homage to him. And then I also liked that, you know, one of the elements of the story was how his life and, more importantly, his death affected all the characters around him, right? Angela Bassett's character has grieved, but she's over her grieving period. Shuri has no idea how to grieve. She's still struggling with grief. In fact, so much so that when she takes the heart-shaped root, she actually doesn't see her brother or her mother. She sees Killmonger, which was, by the way, fantastic cameo. Totally unexpected. Loved it. I thought that was also natural, whether you like it or not. So I liked Shuri's, you know, the anger. You can feel the anger there. You can feel that it was pretty realistic. You can also see that she was wearing the weight of her failure to be able to save her brother in this story, right? What Black Panther 1 and Wakanda did for the disparate African cultures and for African American cultures, I think Black Panther 2 does for the disparate Latin American cultures, including, by the way, a new hand motion, right? Yeah. So like we saw what they did for the greetings for Wakandans. They have their own greetings for the Atlanteans or whatever they're called here. So I like that we get to see a different variety of the Central American, Latin American cultures and their histories kind of all merged into one. I read that all the actors who played the Talakans actually learned Mayan for this movie, so they were speaking in Mayan, which I thought that was impressive. I really liked Nakia and Okoye. Both were used relatively sparingly, although I'm always happy to see more of Okoye and Danai Gurira's character. I think that the first 2 acts, she had more of I'm not just a warrior, I'm a human being, I'm someone with character. She kind of got a little dumbed down in the 3rd act, but I still really liked her. Speaking of Nakia, by the way, loved that end credit sequence. Really a big fan of that end credit sequence. I thought that was wonderful. It actually got me emotional to see that. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it. Everything else I don't mind spoiling, but that end credit sequence was something not just totally unexpected, but was done so well. And Shuri's reaction in that end credit sequence I thought was phenomenal. God, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it now. And Namor. I loved him. First of all, I liked how they gave him the name, the boy without love. I liked the fact that the background of Talokan is not dissimilar from Wakanda. They were all being colonized. I don't know. I just really liked the character. I didn't like how they depicted his villainy side. But as a character, I love it, and I'm hoping to see more of him in the future. Again, the problem is I don't know how they're going to do that based on how this movie.
I mean, for me, the best character conflicts are when there's a legitimate difference of opinion. When you saw Avengers Civil War, which is good versus good, you really saw that Steve Rogers and Iron Man were both good guys. That's such a difficult thing to pull off, but they had very different opinions in terms of what good meant. And I would have been happier if the conflict between Wakanda and Talokan would have been just because of a difference of opinions. Talokan would have said, hey, we are remaining unknown. We don't want anything to do with the surface world. Do not expose us. Don't give, vibranium to anyone else. And Wakanda would have said, no, we have an obligation. We've got to be a part of this one way or another. Vibranium's going to be found. You're going to be found. We have to engage so that we can be leaders and, be a part of this. And that conflict could have been because they just had a difference of opinion. That's a more believable conflict than Namor, who we haven't seen ever before, suddenly now came and said, hey, let's just wipe everybody out. What does that mean for him? Right? I mean, he's not going to do it. And also his powers were, I don't want to say they were cartoonish, but they were a little bit, I can get everybody living underwater. I can get them being very, very good fighters. Then they should have been more mermaidish or Aquamanish. He's the only person who had wings. They all had kind of like breathing apparatus where they could be out of water. They could apparently travel extraordinarily fast. And even in that opening scene, you saw them just doing gratuitous violence. They could have just smashed the machine and been done with it, right?
Yeah.
The gratuitous violence, I mean, I'm not squeamish about the violence. I'm saying it's hard to think of people as a good guy or a good group if this is how they're going to react,
Exactly. If you're the good guy, this kind of wanton aggression cannot be your first move. It just can't. Think all the way back to the year 2000 when we're first introduced to the Wolverine in X-Men, in the very first X-Men. He is shown cage fighting, and he doesn't want to be aggressive in the bar brawl. He doesn't want to fight. He is dragged into the fight. His first reaction is, forget you guys, I'm just here for a drink. He's dragged into it against his will. And that's when you're like, okay, this guy's, we all know he's Wolverine. Yeah. We all know he could kill them as a thought. He's being, even though we know that he's an anti-hero, his first reaction isn't violence. Whereas in this one, his first reaction was violence.
But it came from nowhere, right? Didn't they say he's 700 years old? Yeah, he's super old, and he's never done anything. He's never even revealed himself. There's one machine in the Atlantic, smash the machine, be done with it, right? And then I agree, then it's blamed on the Wakandans. The Wakandans have to clear their name. You've got a better setup for a conflict, right? But there's no reason to kind of like kill everybody on that platform. Again, I'm not squeamish. It just means that you can't be the hero, you can't be the good guy if that's your first instinct,
And that's fine. If you don't want to be the hero and the good guy, that's absolutely fine. We get that. Especially because the very first timeline in terms of chronology, we saw them already slaughter that Spanish civilization when he goes to bury his mother. And even at least in that, they were afraid of him. They fired first. I get that. But still.
There's a very good point that could have also made the conflict. they could have been getting along just kind of fine. And then when Okoye goes in, right, and she's trying to save the princess, she kills the one guard, right? And they say, look, this is the inciting event. We were getting along fine. She was our guest. We were just keeping the scientist. You didn't have to go kill, my favorite guard or my sister, whoever it was, right? Now it's a war. We didn't touch anyone from your side. Why would you do this to us? And that could have been the inciting incident.
Yeah, and that kind of was. I mean, in that regard, that kind of was at that moment. But in the grand scheme of things, you lose your moral high ground when you're the guy who's been attacking people. Okay, maybe they're not good guys, but at the same time, they didn't know you existed. They thought they found vibranium. That was their crime. So why go after the CIA/American ship, right?
Overall, I have to say, I mean, we pick it apart because this is what we love to do. It's not easy to write a movie. I thought Coogler did a great, great job.
Phenomenal job.
I don't think it's a classic. And I'm sure there's going to be a Black Panther 3.
They will never say no because this movie is going to make a boatload of money. I think so. Look, ultimately, I'm with you. It's a wait for streaming for me, but there's really two kinds of people that this movie is going to target demographically. One, comic book aficionados like you and me. And in that regard, it's a meh. It's really a meh. Yeah, only because the cognitive dissonance you have of pitting a good guy versus what's supposed to be a good guy against each other, it never works unless you do it well. And in this case, they didn't do it very well. And the most recent example, Black Adam, also didn't work. You really have to go back to probably Civil War, at least in the superhero genre, to see that work, right? That's one. The second demographic is the racial demographic. If you are from Central America and Latin America, if you are African American, if you are from Africa, this is going to hit you differently because how rare is it to see people that you recognize and that you can identify with on screen? It's super rare. So, I fully recognize that for me, as Pete, as someone who's trying to be as objective as possible, this movie is probably a wait for streaming. But I also recognize that I'm pretty sure this movie is going to come very close to breaking $200 million this weekend. And I think that, by the way, this movie effectively ends Black Adam's run in the theaters.
Let's look at some numbers. What did the original Black Panther do for revenue?
Opening weekend, also around 200.
What did it finish at? And I'll check Black Adam. And I wonder if Black Adam is doing better or worse.
Oh, way worse. Black Adam's at 300 and something million.
Whoa, that's terrible.
Yeah, so Black Panther made $700 million domestic and $1.35 billion global.
You think it does better or worse this time?
This one, I think it does slightly worse. 1.3 billion is a very high watermark. I think, look, do I think this has the chance to break $1 billion? I think so.
I kind of think that. I think it'll... Oh, Black Adam is just terrible, huh?
It's at 330 million for the year, or I think global.
Especially because it opened so well, right?
First of all, it didn't open that well. I think it only opened to $70 million domestic.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at daily. Yeah, it opened 67 million.
Look, the fact is, the budget for Black Adam was $200 million, plus probably conservatively another $100 million in marketing, which means the movie needed to make $600 million to break even globally. They've made $330 million. The movie is a financial flaw.
Rightfully so, though. I mean, we said it was a bad movie. It was a bad movie, right?
There were elements that were good, but I would not consider that a great movie, and I think a lot of it had to do with the casting.
Oh, I think it's the casting or the story.
It's hard to have The Rock play a believable.
That's true.
Bad
For me,
guy.
I think that's story, though. I don't consider that casting, but I understand your point.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I look at it this way, right? Story becomes kind of secondary if your main characters are really good enough and charismatic enough. And I strongly believe that The Rock is good enough and charismatic enough. I mean, he has carried other movies that would otherwise have not been doing well.
I mean, I agree. I think it's that story. I mean, you cannot say that a movie with The Rock that's a superhero movie from, DC should not be doing great, right? And I think it's just a lot of things. It's unfortunate that the title is not great. And I know that's based on the comic book. And I agree. It's the introduction of characters that you've never talked to or talked about before. We never talked about Hawkman. We never talked about Dr. Fate. We never talked about Atom Smasher, right? Like everything was new here. And first of all, Atom Smasher was the worst. Sorry, Noah Centineo. Your character was just terrible. And then it's the fact that at every point, The Rock, who's known for his smile, has a frown on his face, right?
So Black Panther 1 was top of the domestic box office for 5 weeks in a row. And I think that unless there's, with the exception of Avatar, which comes out at the end of this year, I think that you've got a clear runway for Black Panther 2 to stay maybe not at the very top, but pretty close to the top for the rest of the year.
That's fine. But where is the rest of the big releases in cinemas? There's nothing else coming out between the first week of November and the end of the year? Is that possible?
I think that's it. I think we're done for the rest of the year. I think we've got Avatar 2 coming out in, December, mid-December, so like almost a month from now, 5 weeks from now. You've got Creed, which is coming out next week, but I don't see Creed, or maybe in 2 weeks, I don't see Creed taking down Black Panther.
What's Creed about?
Michael Jordan against his own protege.
No. You excited about that?
Nah, not really. Really not really. I didn't think they needed a Creed 2. I thought Creed 1 was excellent. Creed 2 wasn't bad. I certainly don't want to see a Creed 3.
I feel like there's just fewer releases coming out, Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, having said that, still, we saw 26 movies this summer.
Did we?
I mean, this year. Yeah. 26 plus I saw another 13 on my own that you haven't seen.
What's wrong with us?
I mean, yeah, that's a different question. But still, it's not, that is not an insignificant number, right? You're talking about almost one movie a week.
As it should be. Okay.
Yeah, which isn't bad. It's not bad. So I'm just, it's not the strongest of year-end lineups, which is why I think Black Panther has pretty much got a clear run. I also think that they really mucked up the timing for Black Adam's release, because who in their right mind would have thought that movie would have made $600 million in 3 weeks? Not possible.
I mean, I don't know. I'm really disappointed by that, because The Rock is such a mega star, and either he is choosing the wrong things, or these things are being misrepresented to him. But Black Adam just seems.
No, but that's the crazy thing, is he chose this movie. He has wanted to do Black Adam for himself since 2007, since before the cinematic universe even existed.
I don't know what to say. As that movie was very, very disappointing, though. As anyone who will listen to our past podcast on it can attest, we wanted it to be amazing, and it was really, really disappointing.
Indeed.
Okay, so we'll see probably Black Panther 3 in like 2026 then, right?
For sure, they will involve Black Panther in the next Avengers movie. How could they not? The advantage that the Marvel Universe has is that Letitia Wright is very young. So, she could theoretically be in the cinematic universe for quite some time if she wants it.
All right. Well, that is Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. And it sounds like we're going to see more of it in the future.
Indeed.
Listeners, thank you. Pete, thank you. Join us next Friday for Watch Party and next week for more episodes. And
if you have thoughts, please leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, email us aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com or tweet at us at F&S Podcast.
Hit the bell. I agree.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.